So tell me, what do you feel about, what was your first impression about,
Oh, yes,
what
I know
advice would
you
you
completed
give?
your 2020 census.
But how can we
Yep.
collectively?
Yep, definitely. Your vote is definitely your voice.
Now that's the truth. I agree. Yep, I agree. Welcome to Let's Talk Takeaway, the Unmute Aftermath.
Okay.
Yay, you're done.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Thank you. Thank
Very
you.
powerful.
So again, I just wanted to thank you again for joining me on the Let's Talk Takeaway, which is the feedback portion of Unmute, the artistic cinematic project. And I just wanted for you to go ahead and quickly introduce yourself and just tell the world who you are, as
Oh.
they should know, but just in case.
Hi there. I am Christine Horn. I'm an actress, author, singer, and career coach for actors.
Yes, thank you so much for joining me. So I have a few questions for you. I know based on a few other feedback sessions, everyone is giving some really good feedback and just their take on what the project, how it stimulates them, and what it means to them. So I wanted to start by asking you, what's your first impression of Unmute?
First impression is that it's powerful, but what keeps coming up for me as I'm thinking is about just the being silenced and how long we have been silenced.
Hmm.
And even watching it uh, from a female point of view, watching it from an artistic point of view, like being an artist in America, being an artist in Hollywood, and how so many times we have to be silent about so many things
Yes.
to not
Yes.
lose an opportunity, to not rock the boat, to not offend. So for me, it's just and even the repetitive ripping off of the tape,
Mhm.
different things that we're being quiet about, to the point where it starts to bubble over. Like
Yes.
there's just so much we're always taking in, so much we are always dealing with, and
Hmm.
it's this thing of why are we even seeking permission to speak and to let our voice be heard? So for me, there's just so much freedom and so much revolution
Yes.
in just ripping the tape off.
Yes.
So that's the first thing that comes up for me when I after I saw this.
Yeah. That tape actually got a lot of attention because people were like, seriously, it's not, like you said, it's not one thing that we're not vocal. It's just they've turned the volume down. It's
Mhm.
just kind of like that nagging child that the mother, the first couple of times, is like, oh, what's wrong? What's wrong? And then
Mhm.
the child becomes with this habitual action of just, continually, mom, 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 and then it's nothing. And I just think that society as a whole, outside of our brown and black skinned people, they just kind of like that. Okay, you know, it becomes white noise. I've tuned you out. So that, thank
Right.
you for that.
And it's also
Um,
the thing,
mhm,
if I may add, it's this thing of just because you don't hear my voice does not mean I don't have an opinion about something, that
right,
I have a point of view
right,
or
right.
feel the impact. But for
Hmm.
whatever reason, my voice is not being heard. It's not being allowed to be heard, whatever the circumstance. I think that's another part of it as well.
Right. Okay. And I know, as far as advocacy, different people stand in their own, different respective places, but um, how could you advocate the overall message?
How could I have, can you say that, like, explain that a bit more?
With unmuting, being able to turn the volume up on what it is, how we feel as a people, what we're demonstrating as a people, what we've been, the recurring, just the outcry of what we need, and, the, inequality or versus the equality, and, those subject matters. Like, how could you advocate that, from your voice, or, either what you can do from where you are, or um, just really our clusters of community, like what can we do individually.
Gotcha. And I will say, in watching it, that was one of my thing that I really appreciated that you added at the end of the options. I was talking to my husband recently about how the revolution looks different for everybody,
Yeah.
right? We do need people marching in the streets, and then we also do need people getting into legislator, or getting degrees, or lifting a community up in different ways, so that we can have a better future, and not just what is been told the limit that we can reach.
Right.
So for me, I think using my platform as a coach, as an actor, and that's for me through social media, advocating voting, advocating this is where you can donate to different causes. Like, I may not be, I have to be honest, I'm not one who's going to be at every protest. I'm like, the way I changed my world, it's that whole be the change you want to see. My goal, I have a big mission in uplifting a lot of brown actors,
Yes.
and so that we can make change as this huge collective. And so I find not keeping my knowledge to myself is a way to be an advocate for my community as well.
Yeah.
So
Okay, thank you for that. And moving into that, we as African American women, we can carry so much at any given time. Sometimes it's just an ongoing feat. What would be your thoughts? What are your thoughts and feelings as an African American woman related to the cultural climate, like as we are, and not to feed you, any type of opinion, but when individuals will say, just culturally, you have the Black man carrying this on their shoulders, but then you also have the Black woman carrying this on their shoulders, and then the children, and then economically, socially, just self-care, bringing it all together. But then you have, just this climatic heaviness of wear and tear continuously, decade after decade. So how do you respond to that?
yeah, I think that's powerful, and I'm sure anybody who's been watching that James Baldwin, Nikki Giovanni YouTube, footage, it's a whole separate conversation, and I live it every day, being and dealing with just the weight of the world. And I have to say, as selfish as it is, and it is selfish, it has to start with you. You have to take care of you. And we have to start to let go bit by bit, generation by generation, of the story that we must carry the entire burden for everyone, for everything. Like, even I can speak from my own experience, having praise for taking on more. Like, oh, that's how we praise people. That's how we show our value and how much I can carry. And I dare say it's time for us to let that be loose, and to take the time for yourself. And self-care, mental health is huge. So with carrying this weight of the world, I'm a big advocate, and I talk boldly. Get a therapist, get a counselor, get help, get someone to talk to. And there's such a stigma in the Black community about this, but I will talk about it to the rooftops, because what we are seeing in this right now, outside of what's going on in our house, but what we are seeing in the world with violence and racism, and it's a lot for a, it is certainly a lot for Black people in America. And then Black women, like you said, it just gets piled on in a different way than it does for our Black men. So I have to say, start with you. And that could be as simple as lighting a candle, taking a bath, talking to a therapist, because if you are not together, your downfall is the downfall of your whole family unit. So it has to start with self-care, no matter how you get it.
Yeah. And I think, just to piggyback, I think we're just generationally impacted by the fact that it's just becoming a learned behavior. And then those who are learning it are then, it's almost like, the scales of the curses are falling off of us, but it's not at a fault to our ancestors. It's just,
They did
how
the
do you
best
do what you don't know? Right.
Yeah. And that's why the more you learn, the more you have to pass it down. Like, so if your family didn't know about money and you start reading money books, or you go to school and you start learning,
Mm,
help teach someone. The problem is when we want to keep it to ourselves. We have to make sure we keep operating by an abundant mindset, number one, and also know that that is how change happens.
yeah,
You know, that's the thing with women. You talk about women, we are the ones who will be quicker to go to a continuing education course, to hire coaches, to do that kind of stuff. So as we learn, we have to pass it down to our husbands, our brothers, our kids, because that's the only way shift is gonna change.
yeah, yeah. So
So
true. So
we
true.
can't hoard it. We can't
Yeah,
hoard it. Can't take it to the grave. You've got to pass it down.
yeah, for sure. Thank you for that. Um, as far as the, well, we kind of spoke on it a little bit, just a little bit, but as far as, those occurrences or maybe those events that were yesterday opposed to today and then tomorrow, how do you feel it all relates? So how does it all tie into this social injustice? Do you feel that, are we gaining some victories? We speak about a lot of um, oppression yesterday and today, but do you at least feel, in your opinion, and from an unmute perspective, do you feel that that tape is coming off of our society of African Americans, or do you feel it's still a little bit of an uphill battle, stagnancy, and things like that? What do you feel we are?
I feel like we've definitely made a lot of progress. And a reason why, I think also because of, and I got to give it again to social media, the way we can reach the masses
Mm-hmm.
in 30 minutes when something goes down. Now, is it the problem that something went down? Yes, that's still the problem. But the fact that we can reach so many people at once, so that it's not this snail grassroots process. It is, no, this is an injustice, blast it to the rooftops, share it all over the place. And so I think a lot more people are waking up to the fact that this is just, even with cameras, even with this is still happening. So I feel that there's progress, because people, it's just more in our faces now. I think more than ever. And it's around the world. And
Yeah.
I think social media has been able to make it very plain what it looks like. Because see, back in the day, before we had social media, and I'm, even going back to our civil rights movement, it's word of mouth. Maybe your cousin or your aunt called someone and told you about something going on. But no, now we see it, we feel it. So even if you're not in a state where a riot has just happened, or another, shooting of another Black man has happened, you can see it, you can feel it, and you can connect to people. And I
Right.
think it's tapping into our empathy, it's tapping into our human spirit, and realizing that we're more alike than different.
Right. Right.
So I do see progress, and I think more progress needs to happen, and not just within the Black community. We're not, we ain't the ones shooting each other in the back 7 times, like to this degree where, and it's been okayed. That's what it appears to be from people who are supposed to be in charge. So that, I believe, is uniting us in a way, which is progress to me.
So I've had some with my colleagues, allies, the allyship and all this, that's going on. I have a conversation with a melting pot of people, Caucasians, Asians, people who are of indigenous descent, things of that nature. And we all come to the agreement that we want to advocate all lives matter. We really do. I think now the temperature is really on the fact that, as far as police brutality, is not those race of people who are being slain in the streets, in their homes, curbside. It is really truly our people. But how do you feel about so many individuals of different nationalities pouring in to helping us culturally, be it in the streets, be it in the media, social media? What would you have to say to individuals who want to join in the fight, but just really don't know how to kind of come at an African American person without apologizing?
Yeah, and it's tricky too, right? Because it's not, they're not directly responsible. You cannot be held responsible for what your ancestors did, but you can learn and be aware. I think that's step number one. Accepting it, understanding that's what happened, you know, and not saying that you are in agreement, but like, wow, that that's messed up. But, you know, and then it's just about how can I be a good advocate? I've seen a lot of people I know reaching out to me and asking me that. You know, there was a time where then Black folks started getting tired. Like, stop, go to Google, stop asking me. Don't research. I'm tired.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it got to the point I started having a blanket copy paste response. If I was like, okay, this is enough. Like, you have Google just like everybody else. So
Yeah.
use the internet.
Yes.
And you can find your answers. And there are other groups for people who are not Black who are coming together on their own and being advocates, and they have their own ways that they get together and help. So I don't think it means that you have to wear us down with asking a million questions, because, and that's not to be insensitive, it's just that we live this life every day, we have for a long time. And so thank you for your current interest, but these resources already exist in the world that you can do your research and find out. And then as a collective, if Latins want to come together and if white people want to come together, like, there are groups and support groups and collectives and ways you can be a part of the movement in your own way.
Yeah. Do you think, Christine, that I like to do, I love analogies, you know, for my visual colleagues, but do you think that maybe with, and how I try to, you know, I kind of go over in my head, how do I make it more fluid for people that just don't get it, you know? And it may be a point where they never will truly get it because, again, you know, the attacks are not solely on towards them or their families. But how do you feel about a comparison that I've come up with? I said, okay, let's just say that there's this transit or this train or any type of mode of transportation, and it's just been going, and it started off at a point where we know, but anyway, it started off at a point way, prior to a lot of our existence. And it's just this bus that just keeps making these stops. And it's just like this ongoing bus. And it just goes and goes and goes. Never runs out of gas and never runs out of traction, never nothing. And I feel like as far as those who want to, come into the fight with us, like everyone sees the transit, the mode of transportation, and they're enlightened at different stops. So you can choose to get on, but again, as a race, as a culture, this has been an ongoing thing. It's been moving, but you get on at this particular stop, right? And then you can choose to get off at whatever stop you want. Whereas our bus is continuing to go, right? So I guess how, in that respect, like, do you feel that that's a good analogy for the world to hear, or how do you feel about kind of painting that kind of picture for folks?
I mean, I think the analogy doesn't bother me, but I think it also speaks to the truth of you have a choice to get on or off, whereas we don't. And that is reality as well.
Yeah.
So I'd rather you hop on board at some point than never see it and just never hop on board because you're scared, you know, how to get on. You don't know if you're gonna trip, or people gonna laugh at you if you fall, or people gonna ask you why you're on that bus. Like, I think you just seeing it, acknowledging it, and trying.
Yeah.
But there's nothing that will replace someone who lives through something. The analogy's cool, but it's also a truthful reminder that other people have a choice. We're on the bus regardless. The issues of the bus are the issues, and they've been around for a long time. And so, yeah, you have the luxury of coming on and off, and there's nothing you can do about it. It's not your burden.
Yeah.
And help where you can, because you have people, every different culture and race, they all have their own set of burdens and things that they're going through. So I think, and just the same way, they have their own buses as well. So, but right now, this is the bus that we're on, and this is our main focus.
Right, right. Now, I know you mentioned the call to action at the end of the viewing, and I made certain that I just didn't want to put something together as if it were a form of entertainment. I wanted to put something together because there was just something that was really gnawing at me. Like, you know, I may not be able to, have a platform, like most notables, celebrities, athletes, musicians, and so forth. But I think at some point, each one teach one. So I wanted to provide, just some practical things for us to do. So with the call to action, which one of those do you see yourself being able to, if not already, committing to, or being able to devote time to?
Well, voting and census, of course, were already done. And when I looked at it, it was that kind of thing of like, check, check, check. Okay, what am I doing? One of my good friends from high school, I just saw that he's running for mayor for South Fulton in Atlanta. So I'm like, I need to make sure I donate to his campaign. I need to like just be more aware of, especially for me, like in LA, since I haven't been here that long, and really getting into what is happening here, because part of me still feels rooted in Georgia, but I don't live there full time. I don't vote there anymore. Yeah. So for me, that's something I was like, I need to bump that up and get a bit more familiar with here. You know what I mean? Because your brain can be split, but that's like, boo, that's not where you vote.
Yeah.
Anymore.
Yeah. Well, that's good. And I know, I've really been on people about the census because they feel like, oh, they're prying too much into my household, my activity. But I'm like, funding, guys.
Yeah, and it's so funny. It's like, I'm like, why y'all keep saying, like, I'm like, I did it forever ago, online, and like they keep mailing and they come by the house. I'm like, y'all didn't get the information, like back in April, you know. But I guess I'm old enough to remember it when my mom had to do it, so I understand the importance of it. We gotta be, and not just Black people, we all need to be accounted for.
Right. Exactly. Okay, and last but not least, if there were, not saying there is, but perhaps if there was an Unmute 2.0, what would you like to see addressed in that body of work?
If there was, what's coming up for me, and it didn't come up for me when I was watching it, so let's be clear, but now that you're asking, perhaps, I don't know, perhaps showing something as families as a unit can do.
Okay.
Because I definitely, like, even me and my husband have different views on things, and his revolution looks different than mine, you know what I mean? But so how do families come together and see what that actually looks like, and having real talks about what is that? And we throw the word revolution around, but we're starting to feel it more and more with riots and protests, and seeing how elevated things can get very quickly. And how do families prepare for that? What does a next level look like?
Yeah.
And so maybe just a family unit, we need to take care of ourselves and be in tune to ourselves and what we're feeling, and honor that, certainly. But then how do we communicate that with those who are closest to us?
That's good. Okay. Thank you for that. I dropped my little notes down, if there was a 2.0. So much going on. Well, I appreciate your time. Definitely you sharing, just your opinion about the project. I know so many people are lending their time and their energy, so I really and truly appreciate it. And, I just think it's just, forward marching and just us collectively doing what we can, wherever and when we can. So thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thanks for thinking of me, and congratulations. And just, using your voice, you never know who you impact. That's one thing.
Yes.
Everything counts.
Yes.
So congratulations to you.
Thank you for joining me for the Unmute Let's Talk Takeaway. Be sure to join me for the very next episode.